Well, great. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Again, as I said before, we're doing some interviews with former players that I've trained for quite a while, just for them to give us a little update on kind of where they're at and ask them some, pointed questions about their development, about all the process they've gone through. So today we have Joe Bell, and Joe, welcome, Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good. So Joe it's an interesting thing. Joe has never played on my team, but Joe guest played for my team, and then he wanted to do private sessions. And I think we've been doing private sessions since you were probably like 10, right?
Yes, to very long time.
So it's been a long time. So what I like to do, Joe, is for you to give everybody kind of a little of a synopsis, kind of where you at now. I always like to start with that to give people kind of where you're at now and then backpedal to all the different questions that I have for you. So go ahead.
Yeah, right now I'm in my fourth year of playing for Idlewild International Soccer Academy over here in York, England. I play for their academy team as well as university, playing a variety of leagues. I play against a couple of showcase games over here, so it's been really interesting. So yeah, it's been really great over here.
So no, that's awesome. So now you're doing a master's program as well.
Yes, I am. So I'm on my master's, doing my master's degree over here. It's not 2 years, it's a year for a master's. I'm on my last few months of doing my master's, and I plan to live over here and work over here. So I'm
That's
really
awesome.
excited.
That's a little bit of a different path. Most people that I trained over the years, they don't go to college, out of the country. They usually go to college somewhere, in the country. So when you were talking about going out of the country, I was really excited because I took the same path myself. Um, well, so what the highest level you played so far is that university level?
Academy, well, slightly semi-professional.
Okay.
It's academy over here is semi-professional or U21s that we like to call it over here. So that's probably the highest level I played, and I guess the showcase matches just count as just showcase matches against semi-professional academy teams. For
Okay.
instance, my first year here, I played against Hull City's academy for a showcase game, which was really really good. Enjoyed that game. So yeah.
That's awesome. So do you feel like you've reached the athletic goals that you've set for yourself?
Yeah, I believe I did. Yeah, I always wanted to play in college. I never thought I'd be playing it over here in England.
Right,
Never
right.
thought that'd be happening. I thought I'd always be in America, but life has this funny way of surprising you.
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does. Um, how did how did you how do you think that your parents help you to get to where you are now? What are some of the things you felt that they've done over the years to help you do that?
My parents are always willing to sacrifice driving me because when I was playing, I had to drive 20 to 30 minutes to training. My parents would get off work and then drive me 30 minutes through traffic to training sessions. They'll be waiting for me until 8 o'clock at night and driving back and do the same thing again the next day. They're helping me with giving tips and always believing in me, always telling me I can do this no matter what. Just paying for everything, the traveling, sacrificing everything, especially with my little brother having to deal with traveling with my family to go to Vegas to play a tournament in Phoenix, Arizona to play for a Thanksgiving tournament. So they were really key in my success. So I owe them a lot.
That's awesome. Do you feel, and I always like to ask this question, do you feel that your parents have done some things that you felt maybe at that time was not helpful?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Growing up, my dad sometimes would get really angry with me if I didn't really play well, which kind of stoked my fear of not fear myself of playing well, but fear of disappointing my dad, which hindered a lot. And we had a really tough relationship in the last few years because of it. And luckily, he's gotten better and focused on me wanting to just enjoy it now, which I wish he could have done that earlier because I feel like I could have done a lot better
Right,
without the
right,
fear of disappointing him and more fear of just not wanting to perform well for myself.
right, right. So obviously, when we play sports, man, there's a lot of things that you don't get to do. There's a lot of things you do have to give up. I mean, there's no way you can
Yeah.
fit everything in. Is there anything looking back that you felt that you would have wanted to do instead of just sticking with soccer? But I'm sorry, I'm not talking about not playing soccer. I'm just talking about something else that you could have put some more time into.
I feel like I could put more time into my schoolwork. The last few years here in England, I've been focusing more on my uni work, and I've done really well. And I've started to realize what happened, what could have happened if I focused
Right.
on my school work earlier. I could have gotten a lot more better college opportunities.
Hmm.
And another thing was just the social aspect. I missed a lot of my friends saying I couldn't go to something, hang out at a beach because I had a tournament.
Right.
Also, with kind of how my brother was raised, he had a couple times, 4 or 5 times, where his birthdays was at a hotel because I was playing a tournament.
Right.
So I felt kind of bad for him that he didn't have to hang out with his friends for his birthday while I'm playing a tournament in Las Vegas or Phoenix, Arizona.
Right.
So yeah,
Um, I was gonna say, it's when you're constantly focused on these things, there's a lot of times you miss things. And a lot of people also, a lot of kids don't understand how important it is with their schoolwork. Because in order to play at any university, you have to be accepted in the university first.
yeah,
So that comes kind of in front of soccer or in front of any sport you're playing. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a big thing over here because over here we have for a visa you have to maintain a certain level of class attendance. So it's 80%. If you're lower than 80%, you'll get your visa revoked and kicked out of the country.
yeah,
That's the main problem I've seen a lot lately, especially with younger kids, is that they don't really focus on the school part. It's all about the football part
right,
and I always tell them that, well, it takes just one injury to where your career is basically done or you're out for a year and you got to reevaluate your options. So I always tell people to have a backup plan
right,
for
right.
people who want to come over here, ask me like, what's it take to be over here? I say, always have a backup plan. So if you don't have a backup plan, it's not gonna be good.
Well, the
So
the the, the other challenge that I know that when I was in another country that people don't talk about, which is leaving your family behind, leaving everything that you know behind, the culture, everything. You go to a brand new place, you have no friends, you have no one you can trust. There's a very high level for me. When I was in Greece, there were times where there was a lot of times just loneliness, not really understanding it. Um, I just couldn't go out. You're not in a position when you're playing at that level, you're not in a position to just go meet anybody on the street. So you got to be really careful who you deal with. So that kind of stuff. Did you experience anything like that while you were there?
luckily no. A lot of the guys who came over here I actually knew from taser trips or
Oh, that's
camps that I
awesome.
went
Yeah.
for the academy, which was really great. And being a university style community, especially in New York, you get to know a lot of people. I've got to meet a lot of people around the world my last year here, which was really kind of funny. I've
Right.
met people from India, China, all parts of England. So it's not really, it's pretty safe in New York. And I was lucky enough to where how the academy is structured that our first year here, we always end up living together in the same accommodation. So you're always hanging out with each other, talking with each other, going out with
Yeah.
places together. So you never get that chance to feel you're lonely
Right.
until about when people start to leave and you're like the last one there, get to leave. It's like I got nothing to do, got nothing to do that day. But
Yeah.
it over here, it's a lot of camaraderie or loyalty to each other. I know I've talked to people. I've known people for 4 years. And I still talk to them.
That's
So
awesome.
it's yeah.
That's awesome. That's a good situation to be in. Now let me ask you this. Which coach do you feel when you look back on the times that you were playing, at a young age, at a younger age, obviously, which coach do you feel that you learned the most from?
Oh, that's a big one. Can I give you my top two coaches?
Okay.
That's you. I learned a lot from learn under you, and a Hawks coach. Yeah, his name was Coach Patty.
Yeah, I know who he is.
He's coaching at Surf. Yeah, I learned a lot from him my 1 year I had with him, and Coach Brandon as well. I mean, he was the reason why I got I came to Temecula to play football, so it was part of my big key in my process, how it changed my life.
That's great.
So
That's great. Do you have a favorite coach? And then,
obviously you, Jock.
no,
Obviously you, Jock.
because we all have a favorite coach.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean we don't think highly of our other coaches. We just have a favorite
yeah,
coach. We all do. That's just the way it is. Just
yeah,
like coaches have favorite players, but as a coach, a lot of times you can't really say that to players because players take it.
yeah.
So, what do you think? What do you want to share with people that are coming behind you, younger kids that are coming behind you, parents of kids, about the process you went through? What do you want to? What are some of the main things you want to let them know?
That in order to get where I get, you have to sacrifice a lot of things. You have to sacrifice hanging out with friends. You're gonna be up late at night doing schoolwork because you came back from training, having to spend extra hours training, and dealing with the fact when you go to camps, like a college ID camps, you're not gonna get scouted every time.
Right.
And it's just that you're gonna have to deal with people saying no to you and dealing with criticism and taking that criticism and make yourself better. And for parents, I'd say that you have to take a good look on whether your kid can actually make it to the next level and to where a point where is that are you acting more as a coach than their parent? Because there was times in life when I needed a parent and not a coach, and that's my big advice to parents. Another advice I get to players is that you got to stay organized. Helps
Right.
you plan things. That's what helped me. Is that I always had a set goal. I wanted to email these amount of coaches, go to these ID camps, and just set goals for yourself. I want to get these many goals in this season. I want to be player of the match, and just be organized how you set your goals.
Yeah.
So
Well, go ahead.
yeah, it's just and also with players over here to get to where are at. It's players got to realize that it's 1% make it, especially in football. Football is a highly competitive sport all around the world, and that you got player have to realize when they have to stop.
Right.
And so unfortunately, I realize I have to stop now. I wouldn't like to, but unfortunately, I do. But that's my advice because too many kids don't realize that they think they can make it, but in reality, it's a very competitive world. And if you're not in the academy system over here by the time you're age 15, your chances of going pro are pretty low over here.
Right. Right.
So that's just my advice is just be realistic. You gotta be realistic with yourself, and if you can do it, then go. I say go for it, but you always have a backup plan just in
Yeah,
case.
for sure. For sure. The other thing, these academies, what people don't realize with these academies as well, they have players that grew up in those academies, and
Yes.
every single little point about those players. They know if the player is more injury prone. They know when he got sick on this, what injuries he's had. So when you come to those academies, you already at a disadvantage when you show up in Europe in those places. So
Yeah.
and the other thing the Europeans don't talk about, they don't talk about the players from their academies that don't go to the top level. And
Yes.
they never say what happens to them. Because I know when I was there, I looked at the younger teams, the youth teams that we've had. I mean, I think there was one or two players that actually stayed on the first team eventually.
Yeah.
The big question is what happens to the other ones? I mean, what are they doing? What are they doing? What's their next step? What's the next point they go to? Because a lot of places in Europe don't have college level. They
Yeah.
just
They
don't.
don't.
They don't.
College level over here is basically like Sunday league in the
Right,
States. It's not really competitive and it's just for fun. And people usually play are students who don't have time on weekends or on
right.
Wednesdays over here.
And
And that
there is no scholarship involved because that it's not part of the school. Where here in the
no.
United States, uh, we do have scholarships, right? The college do provide scholarship and they pay for the school. So that's one thing the Europeans never talk about. They talk about all the great players they develop and who comes in, who's this guy's 17, he's 18, but they never talk about the huge amount that comes from behind that never goes anywhere. And not only that, they have to figure out what the next step is. And that's
Yeah.
not easy to do when you've been in an academy and all your goals have been to go pro, pro, pro. And all of a sudden you're 18, 19 years old and it doesn't happen. So that's a tough deal as well.
Yeah. And another thing that I noticed that I've even talked to coaches over here is that the American players, when they come over here, they haven't really fully mastered the basics yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're like they don't really understand what their roles are when it comes to their positions, when to make the run, when to play, the type of runs supposed to make as a forward, the communication, there's certain basics that should have been mastered when you're 12, 13, 14, 15 years old hasn't been really mastered for the Americans over here. And it's a big disadvantage for when you're trying to get scouted for a pro club, pro contract.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and in the age is another thing that I've noticed that I've come over here. I'm 22, and the chances of you getting scouted when you're 22 years old ain't that high.
Right. Right.
Ain't the occasion
That's very
being.
true.
So, yep.
Well, the thing is, well, in America, we focus. I'm not going to put my name in there because I don't focus on that. But if you look at most of the kids that are playing, they're focused on winning. They're not
Yeah.
focusing on mastering the ball, mastering the basics. So that's a big problem. The second thing is a lot of them don't watch soccer, so they have no idea. The kids in Europe, when they're 5, 6 years old, they're walking around with their moms and dads. They're going to soccer games. They're watching games on television. So they're pretty apt as far as what's going on with the game. So when they actually step in at 6, 7 years old to play, they may not have it. They're not going to have it all together, but they have an idea. But
Yeah.
the foundation is key. I mean, without the foundation, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done because these players you're playing with, they have the foundation and the quickness and the knowledge and the IQ level. And if you don't have it, within 5 minutes, they can see that.
Yeah. And over here, it's just the culture is surrounded so much in football. Where in the States, you got to compete with baseball, football, basketball, hockey, all these other different sports that the kids will get distracted watching something else. That's just it happens. I mean,
Sure.
when I was growing up, I didn't really watch as many soccer games. I really didn't. I was watching football. What my friends were watching football
Right.
or basketball or even baseball, and then I'm playing video games with my friends online. It's a different culture over here compared to it is in the States.
For sure. Now, where do you feel most of your development came from? Is it, for example, practicing with your team, playing in tournaments, maybe traveling to other states? Like these are all things people are doing now. So
Yeah,
you're not in the States, but you're not in the States now, but things have changed completely with tournaments. Teams, my teams that I coach, they do 3 tournaments. A lot of these teams are doing 15, 20 tournaments a year. Yes. And let me tell you, it's not the tournaments they're doing, they're not local tournaments. If it was local, it'd be one thing. Some of them are going to, Arizona, Utah, Florida, North Carolina, other states to compete in certain tournaments. So they're doing that. So where do you feel that most of your development came from? Would it be training by yourself or these things that I just mentioned as far as these
yeah.
tournaments and practices with teams and stuff like that?
I think a lot of my development came from team-based training as well as individual, a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
As for the traveling bit, well, I mean, at a certain age, it becomes really good for your development. You're playing against different types of players, but at a younger age, it really isn't necessary.
Right.
Especially, I think the right age for you to start traveling is probably 15.
Mm-hmm.
15 years old, I think, is the time where you should start traveling with a club because around that time, I think you should be in. Is it middle school age? Is that middle school age? Freshman year? I'm trying to.
Yeah, you're probably right in freshman year,
Freshman year. Freshman
16,
year. That's
close
when
to that.
that's
Yeah.
because that's when you have college start looking at you as your freshman year, and it's a lot better. And I think 15 is a solid age where you should start traveling. I think any younger age it's not going to be helpful. And it's just start younger age, team based, individual training was mine. That's how I got to where I was.
Right. Yeah,
So
the traveling at a young age, I mean, it puts a big burden on the parents too to start going that
yeah,
far with the kids, especially if they have other kids. Do one parent travel? Do both parent travel? So
yeah,
there's a lot of questions there that they need to answer as they do
yeah.
things. Well, Joe,
Because it
last thing, right? Last thing. what you have any last words? Anything that you want to let people that's playing soccer here in America, what you've experienced since you've experienced in England, what would you like to let them know?
That doing ID camps for college isn't really worth it as they may think. You're spending a lot of money, and to be honest, they already know the kids they want when they get there, and that you're just there to fill in some gaps and kind of hate to say this, pay a little bit more than some other people
Right.
because over there, I one just that because sometimes the college in the states also recruit overseas players as well. I went
Correct.
to university ID camp and where one of their players was 25 years old from
Right.
Germany, just going to his senior year. So as a 16, 17-year old, you're thinking, how am I supposed to compete with somebody who's fully developed from Germany playing football? So it's just that I think that my best choice was coming over here. It was a lot better. I'm playing more games. I'm playing all year round while the college level, you're playing 3, 4 months tops.
Right.
And just I'm getting more games, more minutes, more hours of training. I feel like I've gotten so much better to where I was in the States now to what I am now today. And I feel like I've fully reached to where I wanted to reach as a football player.
That's fantastic, Joe. Well, Joe,
Yes.
thank you very much, man. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I mean, we've talked
Yeah.
for so long, but
Yeah.
yeah, we'll do that. And man, I'm just really excited for you. I know what your next journey is going to be. You've just matured so much over a period of 3 or 4 years. Sky's the limit for you, man. I know it's going to happen.
Yes. Yes. Thanks so
So
much, Jock.
have a great rainy day over there because I know it's raining.
Yes. Yes.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
All
Thanks a
right.
lot.
See ya. No
Bye bye.
problem.